I, 26 female, and my brother, 29 male, are having heated conversations about money. For the story, my brother's name will be changed to Matt. Matt and I are 3 years apart and don't share the same dad. Matt's dad left when he was 10 months old, and my dad came around when Matt was 18 months. My dad raised him, and eventually he wanted to adopt Matt, so we had to ask for permission from Matt's biological dad. Matt's dad refused, on the belief that my dad wanted to change Matt's last name. My dad was waiting for my brother to be old enough to adopt him, but it never happened. Sadly, when we were teenagers, my dad passed away, and by having non-married parents and being an only child for the law, I inherited my dad's house, a flat, and a piece of land. My dad himself was an only child, so when his mom passed away, I inherited half of my grandparents' assets. 21 months ago, my grandpa passed away, and I inherited the rest of my grandparents' assets, meaning that I have another house, agricultural lands, and a bank account. That being said, my siblings started talking to me about the money, how I should invest it, and what to do with it. I paid for my studies with it, and thanks to that, I could graduate this May. I also used it to repair my childhood house, so my mom would stop living in a crappy house. My house was nice to me, but after remodeling and changing the inside features, I noticed we lived in a poor environment. Anyway, I used this money to pay for my studies, which I needed to continue for another 2 years. I also now have to fix and repair the other house. While doing this, I give money to my brother when he has a hard time and life is difficult for him. My brother's a freelancer, so he's struggling more often than I like. When he struggles, he does odd jobs that help him finish the month and pay for his needs, as apparently his main job is insufficient. Following this, you have to know that in the past 21 months, he made me start crypto, which to this date, I'm still not comfortable using. So my account is set up so he'd stop pestering me. I also tried to create a business with him, so I'd put all my money into it and buy a flat with my brother so we could have a home. The plan was to leave the business so he would be in charge. The bank refused to let us have a loan, so the project failed. Anyway, now he explains that he's in dire need of money, that I don't understand his struggles because he's always stressing about paying his rent and needs, and I don't. Because of that, he wants me to give him a third of what I have in my account because this money comes from my dad, and my dad raised him, so he's as much legit as me. So, am I the idiot for not wanting to give my brother a third of what I have in my bank account instead of wanting to help him here and there? Edit. I'm French, as is my brother, and everyone in my family, so there's no will. The legal heir has to get 50 to 75%, and the remaining part can only go to a spouse or civil partner. A will wouldn't have worked here, as he's not on the family tree. Not the idiot. Do not give money to a crypto bro under any circumstances. Don't think of crypto as investing. It's gambling. You've shared more than you needed to already. Your brother's been manipulating you for money for a while now. Stop funding his life. He will only keep harassing you and become even more of a moocher. Definitely this. I think your brother's successfully siphoning money from you that he thinks he's owed. If he is struggling so much, do these things. Go to a financial advisor with him so you can see exactly where his money's going. Tell him to get a second job because you can't finance him anymore. You have to draw the line somewhere. You can't keep giving until you're broke too. Also, stop investing in crypto for the love of all that is holy. That ship has sailed. No one is making anything from it unless you started with OG Bitcoin. Here's a question for you. If you were to see your dad tomorrow, would he be proud of you for keeping all of his money or mad at you for not helping the man he considered a son? He wanted to adopt him, so he saw him as his son. If he had adopted him, he would have gotten an equal share of his inheritance. The fact that you kept it all and just helped him out here and there, I think, would make your dad unhappy. You are the idiot for not splitting your dad's inheritance with his son, because if he wanted to adopt him, he was his son. Instead, his son has to come begging his little sister for money. My ex-wife, 42, and I, 41 male, were married for 10 years and had 3 kids: teen male, tween male, kindergarten male. We got divorced 4 years ago, with no infidelity, just 2 people who decided they had to grow apart. To be honest, we as a couple were terrible. I'm surprised we were together that long. We are good friends though, and even better business partners. We own a small construction company, 50-50. Ever since we got divorced, we've both remarried. I married my wife 2 years ago, and she married her husband a couple of months ago. My wife is trying to play a parent role with my kids. She's trying to discipline them, ground them, etc. I've stopped her, explaining she isn't a parent, and the only ones who can decide those things about our kids are Elizabeth, my ex, and I, and she stopped. Last week, Lizzie dropped my kids off and let me know that Alex, teen, was grounded and couldn't have his phone, so she told him to go to his room, to which Alex replied, "I'm not in your house, you know, so I don't have to listen to you." Thus I said, "Go to your room, not because I say it, but because your mom said so. This might not be your house, but her word is as valid as mine." Alex went to his room and Lizzie left. 2 hours later, my wife told me I humiliated her because while I diminished her authority by not letting her play a more important role in my kids' lives, I encouraged my ex-wife to act like she was more important. By her word is as valid as mine, I meant regarding the kids and their lives. It doesn't mean I'd let Lizzie disrespect my wife. Apparently, everyone is on my wife's side. They say that I should have told Lizzie that her punishment wasn't valid in my house. But I don't think that was the right thing to do. She respects my decisions, so I must respect hers. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your ex is more important. Those are her kids. They don't stop being her kids and become your wife's kids as soon as they enter your wife's house. This is the healthiest parenting I've ever heard of. Kudos to you and your ex-wife. Good job setting parenting boundaries with your new wife. I'm impressed. So the mouthy teen who talks to his mother with so much respect in front of his father, I'm sure he's just as nice to the wife when dad's not around, especially since he knows she isn't allowed to discipline him. You are the idiot, OP. If she can't discipline, she shouldn't be responsible for childcare. So have fun watching that kindergarten version of yourself. I would never agree to watch children I couldn't correct or discipline. Hope your wife realizes that she deserves more respect and care than to only be your housekeeper, cook, and bed warmer. My wife and I have a toddler daughter, Alexis. We both work, and Alexis has attended daycare since she was 1. In the years since, we've been asked to leave 2 programs because my wife is a micromanager. I admit, both of us went into the first program not really understanding daycare. I quickly learned that they couldn't provide personalized care, and after learning from her teachers, I reset my expectations. My wife, however, has a lot of anxiety and worries about our daughter. She hates when she gets even a little upset. She's in therapy and working on it. She's been diagnosed with PPA, but won't take meds. The first program, my wife would constantly watch the live feed and call the daycare multiple times a day. We had several talks about it, and the school talked to us twice. My wife screamed at one of the teachers, and then the director. We were terminated immediately. The second daycare was a little better because my wife began therapy, but my wife was still so nervous and had a complaint every single day. These were not important things. Small things like she saw another child take a toy from Alexis, and she would cry. The teacher would return the toy to Alexis, but my wife didn't understand why the other child wasn't punished. This daycare didn't kick us out, but eventually suggested that this may not be the best program for us. My wife and I decided to pull Alexis out. My wife because of her anxiety, and myself because I knew my wife had burned bridges and was becoming one of those moms. This time, we chose a smaller home daycare as we couldn't afford another center. The woman who owns it is very nice, but also firm. She stands by her boundaries and won't let my wife break any rules, whereas the centers were definitely more accommodating. My wife would take any inch she got. This time, she doesn't get that opportunity. I thought all was well, as the owner only speaks to my wife for the most part. Then I get put in a group text saying my wife has been bombarding the owner with texts daily, despite the owner saying she'll text her at lunch when things are settled. She said at this point, she'll only be responding at specific times of the day and not looking at the rest. The owner then added several pages of the contract with highlighted passages, reminding us of certain policies my wife had violated. I was angry. When Alexis went to bed that night, my wife and I talked. I said this was our last option for daycare. The other centers were too expensive, and this was the only home daycare in the area that we liked. A nanny's not in our budget. My wife made a million excuses, including that it's not her fault she's anxious. I said if we're asked to leave this program too, my wife will quit her job and watch Alexis, not me. This upset my wife. I pointed out, I've spoken to her kindly about this plenty of times. I encourage her to keep up her therapy, but she can't keep getting us kicked out of programs. My wife is now not speaking to me. Am I the idiot? Edit. I cannot be the primary contact for daycare due to not being able to have my phone on me at work. Not the idiot. To be 100% honest with you, 20 years later, your daughter will hate your wife, and there's a high chance she'll not be part of your lives. Your wife is the exact definition of a toxic helicopter parent. She's going to ruin not only your life, already in that process, your daughter's life in the future, and her own life. This is 100%. OP's wife isn't just a helicopter parent, but a steamroller. She will steamroll any and all challenges their daughter will ever face, making sure that their daughter is either terrified of the world or utterly incapable of dealing with any kind of disappointment or challenge, or both. OP needs to do something now if he wants a relationship with his daughter and to make sure that his daughter doesn't inherit his wife's crippling anxiety. Also, the mother expected the other girl at the daycare to get punished. These are small kids, but she wanted the other kid punished in some way. There's a chance the daughter will inherit not just the anxiety, but also the expectation that everyone around her needs to bow to her and be bullied if they don't. Bet $1 million she doesn't want her daughter punished when she takes a toy from another child. A big yikes. Sir, your wife is making a choice not to get better. Her therapy isn't working. By refusing to take her meds, she's choosing to allow her need for control to override her child's need for development and education. She needs a different therapist who will hold her toes to the fire. Her child deserves it. She's so much worse than just anxious. She's selfish and abusive. And this must stop. She's hurting all three of you. I was estranged from my brother for years, even though we lived 5 miles apart. I knew he had 3 kids, and I only met the oldest boy, Dane, when he was a toddler. A few years ago, it came to my attention that my brother was going through a tough time personally and financially, and was fundamentally a single dad to 3 young children, pre-tween, kindergartner, and toddler. I offered him money so he wouldn't lose his home, and he accepted. That led to us reconnecting, although I reconnected with my nephews, who are now a young teen, tween, and pre-tween. My brother works weekends, and I happily agreed to watch his kids. It's no skin off my back. I've always worked from home and get paid a lot of money to do very little work during the week, so it's not a big deal to give up my weekends. Dane has gotten increasingly distant from me, and he admitted that he doesn't want to come over to my house on the weekends anymore. He'd prefer to stay home alone until his dad comes home. I thought it was a great idea, and it's better than having a passive-aggressive teenager who hates being in your house. I asked Dane if he wanted me to talk to his dad, and he said he didn't care. I spoke to my brother and said, what would be the harm in letting Dane stay at home while you're at work and the younger two are with me? I often leave Dane alone at my place, and it didn't burn down. He and I argued for an hour over it. I said I didn't understand his reluctance because I don't live too far away if there's an emergency. Everyone has a phone, and my brother even has a camera in all the rooms. He said he wasn't even comfortable trying it. So I said, don't bother bringing him to my house on the weekend. I'll just bring him back home if he wants. He accused me of dictating how he parents, and I said, someone has to. Yes, you're an idiot if you drop a child back off at their parents' house, knowing they won't have supervision without their parents' consent. You can believe whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you aren't the child's parent, and you're trying to strong-arm your brother into doing what you and Dane want makes you an idiot. He's a single father to 3 children, and he's most likely forced to play nice with you because he can't afford formal childcare. LOL, forced to play nice? I would say it's necessary to be nice to a person you want a favor from. There's nothing weird about that. Also, if somebody drops a kid at your house that you did not agree to babysit, you can even call the cops for child abandonment. One could say, OP's being nice by dropping the kid at home instead. Why are people so harsh on OP? They didn't sign any legally binding contract, nor are they their brother's employees. They're babysitting for free. In this case, they can decide freely which terms are working for them, and then the brother can take it or leave. This isn't OP refusing to babysit. It's trying to tell their sibling how to parent. They think the kid no longer needs a babysitter, and the siblings do. It's not OP's choice whether or not the nephew needs a babysitter. Why offer to watch the kids just to try to get rid of the oldest one for seemingly no reason? As soon as your brother said no, that should have been the end of it. You don't have to understand his reluctance. You brought up having the kids stay home alone. The parents said no, and you argued? And then you decided the kid's no longer welcome because his parent argued with you? The same parent you know is having a lot of issues and having a difficult time. I'm starting to see why y'all were estranged. So here's the backstory. When I was just a 9-year-old and my sis, Jane, was 16, she got this African gray parrot, Pepper, using her job money. She totally loved this bird. One day she made me swear that I'd look after Pepper if anything ever happened to her. Being a goofy kid, I was like, sure, why not? Fast forward 20 years later, Jane's totally fine, but she got this killer job offer overseas. She has to move into company housing where pets aren't allowed. Now she's saying I have to stick to my promise and take care of Pepper. But here's the deal. I'm in no shape to care for a bird. I've got a small apartment with no outdoor space. I'm super busy with my job. Plus, Pepper isn't the easiest bird. He really only likes Jane and can get all cranky without her. To top it off, these birds can live for 60 years. Pepper's only halfway there. And if you didn't know, these things are loud. Despite this, Jane's all like, you promised, and even brought our parents into it. They think I should somehow work it out because Jane's got this big opportunity, and in their words, your word is your bond. I'm losing my mind here. I was 9. Yeah, I did make that promise, but come on, I had no clue what I was saying yes to. Now my family's acting like I'm some kind of villain. So, am I the idiot for not wanting to take care of Pepper, the parrot I promised to look after when I was all of 9 years old? Not the idiot. When Jane adopted it, she promised to look after it for life. And here she is, a couple of decades later, trying to pawn it off on someone else for her own convenience. Tell Jane that nothing happened to her. The bird just became inconvenient. So her 9-year-old promise doesn't apply. Jane is still alive and well. If she dies, I'm sure the OP will be happy to reconsider. Until then, the bird remains Jane's responsibility. I'm sure Jane knows that birds, like other pets, can be transported safely when people move, including overseas. That can't take Pepper with her is her deliberate choice. It's not a fact. Poor Pepper. At 9 years of age, I made a promise to love the pretty girl in my 4th grade class forever. The real idiots here are your parents, who allowed your sister to buy a high-maintenance pet that lives for 60 to 80 years. How stupid are they? In my opinion, your parents are the root cause of this outcome. My husband, 35, and I, female, 30, have been married for the past 10 years, and we have 5 amazing daughters together. Because of that, I dropped out of college to be a stay-at-home mom for the past 10 years when we had our oldest daughter. My husband is the breadwinner, and I take care of all the chores and childcare. While my husband earns quite a bit of money, allowing us to live comfortably, he's also obsessed with budgeting. Thus, I typically only have enough for household expenses. For the past 5 years, I've been working on a series of books. I've been writing everywhere I could, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. And while I sacrificed a lot of sleep, I have managed to finish my series, unbeknownst to my husband. I kept it a secret because he always considered it a waste of time. It was tough, but I got an agent and was incredibly lucky to get a deal to publish my series. I was ecstatic, and when they told me how big my advance would be, I almost fainted. It's much more than I expected for a first-time deal. It's in the higher 5 digits. I haven't told my husband yet, and I had to borrow money from my sister to get an accountant. Ideally, I want that money saved up should something happen, because I honestly don't know the details of our home finances or our kids' future. Whatever will be needed. Plus, I would love to have some spending money without asking my husband, Greg. However, Greg found my contract, and he's now demanding I give him a new car for Christmas. A very expensive new car, which would cost the majority of my advance. I politely refused, saying that he didn't need a car that expensive and that the money was supposed to be saved up. I tried to explain my position, but he wouldn't have it. He basically called me an idiot without actually using the word. He said that because he's supported me all these years, I owe him, and without him and his money, I wouldn't be where I am now. He's told me that either I buy him a car or I have to start paying for household expenses, half and half. The thing is, I would still be an at-home mom. I don't know if my book will succeed. For all I know, this will be the only money I will ever get from my book deal because it'll flop. Am I the idiot for not wanting to buy my husband a car, even though I have the money? Holy crap, probably the most solid not the idiot I've ever given here. Good God, your husband is not only the idiot in this instance, but I'm also getting major general idiot vibes. If your family's household finances are separate, he had zero right to demand you foot the bill for a huge, non-essential purchase. However, if your finances are considered by both of you to be pooled, I question why he only allows you the bare minimum to cover household essentials. Even putting aside the 10-gallon bucket of marinara that is him demanding a friggin' thing from the money you earned, doing something he crapped in your Cheerios about in the first place, I have a massive concern as to why you don't know anything about your family's finances. It's not uncommon for one person to be the designated money manager in the relationship, but that does not negate your right and responsibility to know what the hell is going on with any and all accounts for your family. He's an entitled brat at best and perpetuating financial abuse at worst, and my money is on the latter. And yet he seems to have forgotten that you also supported him in raising his kids, taking care of your house, probably cooking, cleaning. You owe him nothing. Please don't surrender to his mental game. Toad up 10 years of personal chef, maid, nanny to 5 kids, and household manager. Pretty darn sure it would equate to more than his salary. He is being manipulative beyond words, so I hope you not only don't give in to his demands, but also stand up and take no more of this kind of crap from him. Yes, who really wanted all these kids so close together? Not just 5 kids, but 5 daughters. I believe somebody wants a boy. I can only imagine how differently his daughters will be treated from his long-awaited son, if he happens to have one. OP, hold your horses, because that advance ain't all yours. High 5 figures might seem great, but you have a lot of money that will come out of that advance. Agents get 15%. The government gets a percentage from taxes. And guess what? You're self-employed, and now you get to pay Medicare and Social Security all by yourself. Only about 45% of any advance goes to the author. Best of luck to you. My 29 male, wife 30, and my best friend Cyan, 25 male, do not see eye to eye. Some backstory. My wife and I moved for my new job. Cyan was the cousin of a high school friend, so I was thrilled to know someone. We quickly became best friends, closer than brothers. During the global issue, our job was in person versus my wife's work from home. Cyan is a very kind person. However, I think my wife hated everything about Cyan. She thought he was too goofy and hated how he teased her. My wife takes things seriously, and she's a romantic, so date nights are a big deal to her. She hated when Cyan hung out, even when I invited him. A few months ago, I had a 4-month project across the world. I needed the promotion. My wife ended up needing surgery, and she, unlike me, didn't make close friends here. Her friends and fam were too far. She couldn't do normal things post-surgery and wanted me to come back. I complained to Cyan, and he suggested he pop over to help her. He did a lot more, and my wife relied heavily on his kindness. When I came back, it was like my wife flipped her switch. Things that were immature became playful. She constantly fell for his fish for compliments, and it was like Cyan could do no wrong. Cyan still hung out, but he couldn't snap out of caretaker mode. The two of them are practically joined at the hip. When I went to work, my wife packed Cyan a lunch too, and his lunch is a lot better than hers or mine. Cyan needs this or that or whatever. She showers him with attention. My wife can be overbearing like that. At a small party, I came with my wife, and she immediately zoomed to Cyan and monopolized all his time. After he went to the bathroom, which was basically the only time she left him alone, I pulled him aside and I told him I knew my wife was clingy and that it was okay if he kept boundaries. He wasn't obliged to hang around my wife. I said it kindly. He turned red, told me I was an idiot, and stormed away. He left without saying goodbye to anybody but my wife. Am I the idiot? I told some mutual friends about this, and most of them were on my side. They said Cyan didn't know how to stand up for himself. He was embarrassed. Cyan is still angry. It kind of sounds like both you and your wife are in love with Cyan. Do you know if something romantic happened between them while you were away? I think you are the idiot. This story has a lot of U-turns, but ultimately, you seem to be angry because somebody, I'm not sure who to be honest, is not giving you enough attention. This literally made me chuckle and is spot on. OP isn't content unless he's the center of attention. Main character syndrome. He was fine when he was being fought over for attention. Question: do you actually like your wife? Because of the way you talk about her, I question why you're married to her. Don't get me wrong, she deserves way better than you, but why do you stay? First of all, who invites a friend to their date night with their spouse? You realize that just kills the vibe of it and makes it awkward. She wanted to spend time alone with you. This is a situation that you set up entirely for yourself, and they have a relationship that you promoted and indeed forced by pushing them together while you were away. Your wife is in serious need of help. She had no choice over who could help her. You made it. You're an idiot for whining about it and trying to split her new bond apart for your own needs. I, 21 female, had my sister, 18, over for the past 3 days as she was fully renovating her apartment that she got for her 18th 3 weeks ago and couldn't stand being there when it was being renovated. It was to last for 6 days, and she said she would be out most of the time for school or with friends. She doesn't want to go to our parents' home as she can't stand any more interventions from our father, as she was not supposed to move in until school finishes, though she played the I'm 18 card. I allowed her to stay for this short period, and it wouldn't be inconvenient as we all live less than 2 miles away. My boyfriend, 22, and I live together, and he adores my sister, even though she is, according to him, a bad influence. I have to attend classes most of my days, so I'm not here from the morning till the afternoon or evening. My boyfriend is doing an internship right now, so he's not always home, but he's there more than me. For most of her life, my sister would always walk out of the shower and wouldn't care about who would see her naked. One of our bathrooms that she conveniently uses is in our bedroom. You have to go into our room and walk past it to the bathroom. My boyfriend finishes early on Mondays, and my sister comes home earlier than expected. I usually head home quickly as we want to spend our free time together, though my sister had other plans. According to my boyfriend, she went straight into our shower as soon as she came home while he was lying down on our bed. She was crying loudly in the shower and proceeded to walk out of the shower, no robe or towel, and back in as she forgot something 3 times. After finding this out, I proceeded to terminate her stay. She called me unreasonable and an insecure freak. My parents also put me at fault for making her break down as she returned to our parents' house. My boyfriend has informed me that I overreacted and he just wanted me to tell her to stop doing that as it was bizarre. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your house, your rules. Do you buy the whole breakdown thing? Also, why is she using your ensuite bathroom, not the guest one, and causing drama? Was she really crying in the shower? Or was it all a ruse to get your boyfriend to comfort her? She didn't get the reaction she wanted the first walkthrough, so she did it repeatedly, hoping to get the attention she wanted. Then if OP walks in while he's comforting her, she can play the victim and say boyfriend was trying to take advantage of her. Like the saying, once is an accident, 2 is a coincidence, and 3 is a pattern. It is possible, but it feels more like an I'm 18 and hotter than my sister, and I want to see that. The whole story gives sister giving off pick me vibes. Also, he could have just told her to use the guest bathroom as soon as she came in, wanting to use theirs. OP, ask your boyfriend how he would feel if his brother or friend did that. Would he be okay with that? Would that be considered an overreaction? Clearly your sister wanted to flirt or try to get a reaction from your boyfriend, but she didn't expect to get thrown out into the streets, LOL. And I'm sure your parents are mad because they raised a loose woman who tried to flirt with her sister's boyfriend and are now stuck with her again at the house. I'm a 32-year-old male and my wife is a 33-year-old female. We got married during COVID, and last week we took our first family vacation with all the kids. We share custody with our exes. I have 2 boys from my first marriage, young children, and my wife has 1 boy from hers, 1 year older. The boys get along great. In addition, we have a baby together, a toddler girl. On our vacation, we took dozens of pics of the kids. Then I told my sons to pose for their mom. We were away for 10 days, and she asked me for a picture of the boys. My wife got mad and said I shouldn't exclude my stepson. I told her I'd take a picture of all the kids as well. I just have to take one of my sons for my ex, their mom. I took the picture and sent it to my ex. Then we took a bunch more pics of all the kids, and we had for days before. When the kids were asleep later, my wife confronted me about the picture I took of my sons, and I told her I didn't think it was a big deal. I've taken a bunch of pics of all the kids, of just our girl, of just the boys, of the kids individually, etc. She said I'm excluding her son, and I told her that wasn't true. I love my stepson and she knows it. She then yelled at me and said he, my stepson, has enough issues with his dad and shouldn't have to beg for his stepdad's love as well. I told her I thought she was really overreacting. It was just 1 picture, and none of the kids even gave it a second thought, so we ended up having a fight. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I agree she's overreacting. Why would your ex want a photo of someone else's kid? I understand that she wants to protect her son, especially if he has a deadbeat dad, but your sons have a mom who wants pictures of her kids. I wonder if there's a deeper issue here as to why a single photograph would set her off. It sounds like she wants to make a crazy point to your ex about her and her son being your priority now, not your ex. She's definitely jealous. Question though, why did she not mention the baby being excluded? There may be some other issues here. I don't think it's about his ex. It's about hers. She's taking her anger out on OP because his kid's other parent is decent and involved, and her kid's other parent has issues. The comment about begging for stepdad's love as well is really revealing. She wanted to play happy family, and acknowledging OP's ex for even the length of one photo ruined that. She has issues with her ex and how he treats his biological son. So seeing a healthy co-parenting relationship caused a jealous reaction because she wants but doesn't have one. This is about her, not her child. I've been with the company for 6 years now. We are very informal with each other and have a fairly laid-back culture. The company president is Dave and my boss is Lou. I tell employees who call me Mr. Smith, fake name, that my name is Dennis and that there is no need for formality. We recently hired a new employee. The fake name I will give her for this post is Jenny Potter. In coming on board with us, Jenny signed all her emails to Mrs. Potter. When she answers the phone, it's, "Good afternoon, this is Mrs. Potter speaking." When she calls me, it's, "Good morning, Dennis, this is Miss Potter." And my response is always, "Good morning, Jenny, how can I help you?" If I send an email to Jenny, the response is signed by Miss Potter, emphasis hers. She's 3 levels below me in a different line of reporting in terms of the company hierarchy, so her supervisor's boss reports to someone on the same level as me, if that makes sense. It got back to me that she thinks I'm disrespectful for not calling her Miss Potter when I speak to her. When I spoke to others about it, most stated that they just ignore it, don't use a name to address her, respond to her queries, and let her call herself whatever she wants. My boss thinks it's idiotic and that she's not at any level within the company to demand that. When I told my wife, she replied that it was obviously a button for this woman and that I was being an idiot by antagonizing her. My counterpoint to this is that nobody in the company gets addressed formally, and if I don't call my boss or his boss by anything but their first names, I'm not going to formally address another employee several layers down the hierarchy. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. She's being very polite about how she wants to be addressed. You're crapping all over it. She wants to be called Miss. Call her Ms. Your position doesn't excuse this behavior. In fact, it makes it worse. She's not below you. You are not above her. You're both human beings. She's not being that polite by demanding she's addressed with an honorific when no one else is. She's demanding she be addressed with more respect than anyone else at the company. Asking someone to refer to you as Mr. or Mrs. when everyone is on a first name basis is the same as asking someone to call you sir or ma'am. So yeah, his position is relevant because she's asking him to verbally refer to her as his superior when he speaks to her, even though she's dramatically inferior to him at the company. Disagree. It's about boundaries, not hierarchy. Maybe she likes to keep it formal so she can draw a line between private affairs and work-related stuff, or she simply isn't comfortable being called by her first name. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. OP, don't you have more important things to tend to other than gossiping about coworkers and being a blabbermouth? Honestly, you sound exhausting to be around. He's insufferable, clearly. OP, you are minimizing a grown woman. Who cares what her position is? Her name is Miss Potter. You don't know her personally. She's not giving you permission to call her by her first name. Agree or not, it's disrespectful. She's given you respect. Why won't you reciprocate? So is she, to be honest. Arriving in a new workplace and demanding things that are pretty out of the ordinary and unnecessary is also insufferable. Sure, it takes no effort for him to just call her Miss Potter, but it also takes no effort for her to just drop it. I, 25 female, and my husband, 30, got married last Friday. We planned our dream wedding down to our dream catering company. The wedding was beautiful. After the pictures, we headed to our cocktail hour, and that's when I saw her. My guests were told to wear dark colors, so my husband and I stood out. I also asked my guests to wear minimal makeup. I had assumed that applied to the staff too. The server, 19 female, clearly had on too much eyeliner. She also had diamond studs in her ears, a flashy ring, and one of those ugly nose studs. The staff's uniform was a black long-sleeve shirt, but on her it was too low cut, and her pants were far too tight. It was super distracting. She was walking around serving drinks and talking to my guest. I asked another member of the staff to speak to their boss. When their boss came out, I pointed out the server and asked that she be dealt with because she was super distracting. Their boss apologized and called the server back into the kitchen. Not even an hour later, the server was back out serving food for dinner. I called the boss over again and asked if the server could work in the back or go home. Her boss said that they were short-staffed tonight, so she would see what could be done. After a couple of hours of not seeing her, I saw the server again behind the bar. I called the boss out one last time and told her if the server didn't leave, I would be calling the cops. The boss finally relented and told the girl to go home. My husband and mother-in-law said I was acting crazy and that I probably got a poor college kid fired over nothing. My mother and maid of honor said it's my wedding, so I can do as I please. It's my wedding and I don't want someone outshining me, and the server should know she's at work and not dress up so much. I do feel kind of bad because she was pretty young. Am I the idiot? You are so insecure that you asked your guests to dress down for the wedding and you harassed a server until she was fired? I don't know how you look on the outside, but you're ugly on the inside. You are the idiot, but don't worry. I'm sure the catering team will get it right at your next wedding. Bold to assume she'll manage another wedding. OP, I get having rules for guests and all, but having people specifically dressed in dark colors and minimal makeup so my husband and I stood out? Yo, whose wedding is everyone at? What are we celebrating again? I promise, regardless, you'd have stood out a bit, walking down the aisle and all. OP honestly sounds unhinged. She threatened to call the police because one of the servers was wearing jewelry and a low-cut top. Don't forget the eyeliner. The audacity. You need therapy, not a wedding. This is not normal. I'm sick of people using the old "it's my day" line to justify treating people like crap at their wedding. I can't imagine how insecure you must be that you felt a woman in a server's uniform was overshining you at your own wedding. LOL. You definitely didn't get her fired. I'm sure all the servers laughed about it later. I can't tell if you were bitter because you felt that she was pretty, or because it sounds like she had a more alternative look when you pointed out that she had one of those ugly nose studs. My money is 100% on the server being very attractive, and OP couldn't handle this. Can you imagine the call to police? The server at my wedding is prettier than me. Arrest her. You should have been dancing, laughing, and enjoying your new marriage. Instead, you were pulling an evil queen, who is the fairest in all the land. No one noticed this server as much as you. Rein in that ugly jealousy, or your marriage might not last long if you call out anyone who looks attractive in your presence. So, my 20 female, parents have these family friends from New Zealand. They often come to stay with us on holidays. Their preschool kid also comes to stay. So now I often volunteer to spend time with the kid, play a couple of games, muck around, whatever. But for the last 4 days, as soon as I've come home from work, this kid has been running to me like I'm a parent. I can't make myself a coffee because I've got a kid to play racing cars with. The parents have made no effort to make sure the kid gives me space. I quickly got absolutely sick of it, but I bore it because I do like the kid. But this particular time, the kid approached me while I was trying to do my washing. The parents were out the back doing something, and they purposely left me with the kid and didn't even ask. So I had a party with the kid, blasted sick rock music, did some sick punk makeup on him, and taught him to say and thoroughly enjoy saying nasty curse words. The kid had the time of his life. The parents were absolutely furious with me, but I didn't agree to be a role model. I wanted them to keep their kid away from me. This was the only type of crap I thought would work because they don't care about how I might feel. Anyway, what do you think? LOL. You are the idiot. Essentially, this story says, I've never had the backbone to say no and create boundaries with the people in my life. So I got angry when they used me to do the same thing repeatedly and decided to teach their children foul language without first asking the parents. That's what you did. Learn to have a conversation and create boundaries like an adult. So she's supposed to say no to people who don't have the common decency to talk to her about watching after their kid? If she isn't given a chance to set boundaries because they haven't asked her, how can you fault her for not having a backbone? Get your head out of your butt. OP's not the idiot. Are you a 20-year-old woman? You sound more like a teen boy. The mature thing would have been to take the kid to the parents and say you don't have much time to watch him right now. Done. Instead, you made a point to teach the child to be completely obnoxious, and you seem to have gotten off on doing it. Passive-aggressive behavior is not a good look. Learn to communicate with someone other than a toddler. Being female instead of male means OP should be more mature. All you people need to put yourselves in the child's place. If the parents come and get the child, there's no rejection. It's just parents being parents. If OP takes the child to the parents and stands up for herself, that child is being openly rejected by someone the child looks up to. When my nephew was an impressionable toddler, my older sister used to dump him on my mom and me all the time because she thought she could have a party life and a kid every single weekend. We taught him how to say, "Stick it up your bum, Mom." He'd run around going, "Stick, bum, stick, bum." She got the picture and learned to look after her own kid. You are not the idiot. My daughter, Mia, is 23 years old. She's a college graduate and recently started looking for a job. Her stepdad, my husband, has been begging her to come work at his company, but she refused because she said that most employees there are men and they make uncomfortable comments about women and they make her uncomfortable. She went to the company many times and felt uncomfortable. She said that in those 30 to 40-minute visits, she couldn't handle the negative vibes, so she couldn't imagine working there 8+ hours every day. My husband insisted and basically gave her a pros list that he thought was enough to make her reconsider. She still refused. Her best friend found her a job opportunity at a company that's well known in our area, and Mia was excited beyond measure. She even went shopping for new clothes just for the interview. However, on the day of the interview, I got a call from her crying, saying her interview was canceled. I was confused, thinking something must have gone wrong, but she said that her stepdad got home and told her he canceled the interview using her email, which led to an argument. I was livid. I went home and I flipped out at him, like I just lost it on him, and he was shocked by my reaction. He defended himself, saying he did this for her own good, and was frustrated after she kept turning down his offer to join him in the company. He lashed out, saying that instead of siding with her, I should encourage her to join the company and help improve it instead of working for others. I left the room and he shut the door and stayed inside the whole time. We're still on non-speaking terms, but he occasionally threw in how he just wanted what's best for the whole family. Still, now Mia missed an opportunity to work with a respectable company and gain the benefits that help her progress in her career. Not the idiot. Is he normally this overbearing and controlling? The dude hacked her emails and ruined an opportunity she wanted. Your daughter's an adult. She gets to make adult decisions. One of them is not working for her stepfather, and she has good judgment in not wanting to work anywhere near him. Info. And you're staying with this misogynistic, controlling abuser because? Seriously, your daughter is your dependent and the person you have a moral responsibility to protect. Why would you stay with someone who prioritizes control over being good to your daughter? Report this to the police. What your husband did was commit fraud and possibly illegally access your daughter's email as well. Your husband is controlling and vindictive. And if you let him continue with this type of behavior, expect your daughter to go no contact soon. It is not your daughter's responsibility to make your husband's company a better place to work for women. It's your husband's responsibility. If he wants to make his company a better place to work for women, he should start by learning that when a woman says no, it really does mean no. I got a call telling me my wife had an accident and was in the hospital. I have a preschool daughter and I adopted my tween niece a few years ago after her parents died. I called every single one of our babysitters and none of them could come. I was in a hurry, so I asked my niece to look after my daughter until I returned. She refused and we argued for a while. She yelled at me and said, "I'm not your personal babysitter." I was so desperate and angry at the moment, so I yelled at her and told her, "Yes, you are. That's why I adopted you." I truly regret what I said, and I know it was wrong. And I'm an idiot for saying this, but I was worried about my wife and I had no other option. After that, she agreed to do this and I left. On my way back, I knew she would be upset, so I bought her several gifts and snacks to apologize. She took them and we seemed fine, but later I got a call from my sister telling me I was an idiot. I know what I said was very wrong, but I don't think I'm an idiot for expecting her to help in an emergency. Am I the idiot? What is wrong with you? You cannot ever say that to your child in the biggest fear and stress. Never ever. But if you're honest with yourself, this thought lives in your head and is the truth. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said this in anger. Of course, you can ask her to be a babysitter in an emergency or else, which she's allowed to decline. But it's not her job to babysit your biological child just because she's older and you want this. You adopted her. She's your child too, not your slave. You are the idiot big time for screaming and what you said. And you messed up the relationship with your niece, as you call her. So maybe don't call her your niece. It's your daughter. So your daughter's more important than your niece? Did you really think gifts would repair this? She won't ever forget or forgive this. Poor girl, lost her parents, got adopted, but is still just the niece and is always second place and your free babysitter for the future. I honestly gasped out loud when I read that line. Hope you saved money from therapy and all the bribes that won't make up for having revealed your true feelings to her, and just how tenuous her position in the family is if she doesn't follow your orders because, holy crap, is this an Idiot of the Year contender? Update. I found the gifts I bought her in my daughter's room. I asked her why she put them there, and she started crying and told me, "You should give them to your real daughter." I apologized and hugged her, and after she calmed down a bit, I told her that she was my real daughter, and I explained to her that I was just worried about my wife, and I didn't mean what I said, and should never have said it. I adopted her because I love her, and she knows it. I wasn't her only option. She wanted me to adopt her because she knows how much I love her. She still didn't want to take those gifts because it made her feel bad, so I returned them and went shopping. I bought her another gift for being helpful to the family in an emergency. My wife is okay now and she's back home, but she still can't be alone all day with a toddler. So I promised her, as soon as my wife is entirely okay, to look after my daughter alone. She and I will have an entire day, just the two of us, doing whatever she wants. I, female 32, used to be friends with Sarah, female 28. However, with time she started exhibiting some odd behaviors that creeped me out. She started copying how I dress, how I do my hair, and my way of life. Finally, it was a point where people started noticing. Sarah and I worked together, and I didn't want to cause any issues at work. So instead of confrontation, I simply slowly distanced myself, and we mostly see each other at work, occasionally at some work nights out. She still copies my looks, but since she doesn't know much about my life beyond what she hears from others, she can't do much else. E.g., I don't see her at 5 a.m. at my gym swimming pool when I'm going for a swim, despite her living at the opposite end of town and using a different gym before. Sarah just moved into her new, freshly renovated house. She invited our whole department to our housewarming party, and I couldn't really say no. And since everyone was going, I was fine with being there. When I entered her house, I felt like entering a distorted copy of my own house. She copied my house design as closely as she could. Obviously, she couldn't copy everything down to a T for various reasons, but she was pretty darn close. It felt so surreal and odd. It was like I was at my own house, but at the same time, I wasn't. I tried to ignore it, and since I only saw the ground floor, I didn't want to jump to any conclusions, but my other coworkers, those who have seen my house, mentioned the similarities. We all drank a lot, and at one point I needed to go to the toilet. The downstairs one was occupied, and Sarah told me that I could go upstairs. I went with another coworker as she needed a toilet too. While walking upstairs, things have gotten even more creepy. Her carpets, paint, decorations, furniture, everything kept matching my decor. I mentioned it to my other coworker, and she said that she noticed it but didn't want to bring it up. When I was waiting outside the toilet, I decided to snoop a little, which may make me an idiot as well, and I entered her bedroom. It was bloody identical to mine, down to a blanket on her bed and books on her bedside table. Heck, she even arranged her wardrobe the same way I have mine. I told you I snooped. I was done, and clearly alcohol gave me courage. I went downstairs and went ballistic, shouting at her to stop being an effing creep and stop copying me with everything I do. I grabbed my stuff, told her to get a life, and left her house. A few coworkers followed me, trying to comfort me. She's been trying to contact me since then, messaging me that it was her private bedroom and I wasn't supposed to see that, and I shouldn't have been creeping around her house, and what an idiot I was for shouting at her and making a scene in her own house. I do feel bad for causing a scene, but I must say it creeped me out. I'm not proud of losing control, but before I reply to her, was I the idiot here? Not the idiot. Holy moly. Look for hidden cameras if you find anything that could be used as evidence. Call the cops. What if she had been watching and listening? Maybe change the locks and reset all electronics as well. I would stay far away from her and never let her return to your home. Heck, I'd switch gyms. Think back to times things in your home felt off, like something was somewhere you swore it was elsewhere, like a coffee mug on a counter instead of a table and whatnot. Ask neighbors if they've seen a car like hers drive past. Check any ring cameras. Somehow prove this girl is stalking you. You're being stalked, and she's exceptionally bold about it. She's allowing coworkers to see she's blatantly copying your image, then inviting all of your coworkers to her home, which is a carbon copy of yours. It sounds like gaslighting's on the horizon for you and your coworkers. She'll only get bolder and bolder. Agree. Security system ASAP. Restraining order if possible. New job if necessary. What a lunatic. You're being single white femaled. Something very, very strange is going on. I agree with others. Is there a hidden camera in your house? Someone has to be letting her in your home. Who else lives with you? That person could be giving her access to your home. I would also consider changing my locks. Geez, I feel unsafe for you. I can't blame you at all for going mad. I would have lost it too. What she has done is beyond creepy. However, it's everyone's the idiot here situation. By kicking off, you've shot yourself in the foot and possibly caused issues for yourself at work. You've lost the high ground now, and she will make herself look like a victim. You need to do some damage control at work. I'm sorry you have to deal with this. She sounds insane. What a nightmare.